Hello and welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be talking about life as a 49er and what it was like to be around during the gold rush in California. In our last video we talked about how the gold rush came after the Mexican-American War and how it brought about a large group of people all to California in response to this gold rush. 49ers flocked to the gold fields with high hopes. One young man described the excitement of departing for California from Indiana. He says, "The diggings had been discovered but a 12-month before, and the glowing tales of their marvelous richness were on every tongue. Our enthusiasm was wrought up to the highest pitch, while the hardships and perils were scarcely given a passing thought." And that's from David Rohrer Leeper, the Argonauts of 49. So just from this one quote, we see about how everybody's talking about it. Our enthusiasm was wrought up to the highest pitch, meaning everybody is very excited and eager to get started. Glowing tales of their marvelous richness were on every tongue. Everybody's talking about it. Everybody's getting excited. Marvelous richness. While the hardships and perils were scarcely given a passing thought. Meaning all anybody can think about is gold, 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 gold. We got to get there. We're going to make it rich. And the hardships and perils, meaning all the trouble, all of the difficulty and everything, that doesn't matter because we're going to make it rich. Scarcely given a passing thought. At first, the miners used cheap metal pans, picks, and shovels to harvest gold flecks from the sand along the banks and bottoms of rivers and streams. This process was known as placer mining. So what people would do is they would take these pans and then they would poke these little holes in the bottom of the pan, and then they would just scoop sand and water and dirt up out of these creeks and rivers and out of the beds and shake all of the dirt and grime and rocks out and just sift through it trying to find little flecks, little pieces of gold. Because with pans, picks, and shovels, they can't really go digging mines, so they have to watch and try to catch this gold as it washes through the waterways that come down out of the mountains. A few miners got rich, but most worked hard for little gain. Because food and clothing were so expensive, shrewd traders made more money selling goods to the miners than the miners made by panning for gold. So you have to think, this went from barely anybody there to 225,000 people in 5 years. So things like clothing and boots and food items and everything, this is going to be hard to come by because there just weren't a whole lot of people there to begin with. Nowadays, I can get in my truck, pick any direction, drive 10 hours, and I know wherever I end up, I'm going to be able to get some food. I'm going to be able to buy... I could drive anywhere, and I could buy any food I wanted. I could buy any clothing I wanted. I know that I'm going to be able to I could pay some money, have a warm bed to sleep in. I know that no matter where I go, I can get that. But these explorers back in these times, they didn't have that luxury. They could go somewhere and there may not be a soul for miles around. And if they go there and I don't know, their clothing, they lose their clothing or something, well, they just have to go without. So it made a lot of these traveling traders, they jacked their prices way up because these miners, where else are they going to go? I'm the only person around that's selling boots. You need a pair of boots? Well, I'm selling boots. And I'm the only guy for miles and miles and miles that has a pair of boots for sale. So you're going to pay whatever price I put on them. And a lot of people took advantage of that situation. Conditions were hard in the crowded mining camps. Poor sanitation promoted diseases, especially cholera and dysentery, killing hundreds. In addition, life was cheap and law was scarce in the camps. Almost all of the inhabitants were men who felt frustrated by their failure to find much gold and by their lack of family life. Competition and fights became common. One 49er noted, "It is surprising how indifferent people become to the site of violence and bloodshed in this country. So that just goes to show how violent people got in these mining camps. You know, these little mining towns that would just spring up of a bunch of people coming together, you know, and everybody is there trying to find just little shreds, little flecks of gold, you know, to try to make it rich. And some people were successful, but most weren't. You know, they would go and they would hunt and search and pan and just labor for hours trying to find the smallest little piece of gold, and most of them came up empty-handed. So whenever you have a bunch of people together, and some people are coming back with sacks of gold, and some people don't even have two little flakes to put together, and the nearest sheriff is hundreds of miles away, well, people are going to get greedy, and they're going to do what people do. They're going to fight, and said right in that quote, "It is surprising how indifferent people become to the sight of violence and bloodshed." In search of order, the miners carried out their own rough justice. Without official legal authority, they acted as judges, juries, and executioners. So back in these times, you know, like I said, the nearest sheriff or judge could be hundreds of miles away. So they took care of justice in their own ways. And, well, with the picture that I've put on that slide, I think you can tell what that means. Here's a picture of a 49er. Placer mining used water to sort through gravel and other material in order to find valuable gold, which would sink as other material washed away. So gold was heavier. Gold was heavier than other materials that would be washing up in these rivers. So whenever they would pick up gold in their pans and they would sift it out, the gold would sink to the bottom, so they'd be able to find it real easily. Mining methods improved. So over time, you know, whenever there's money to be made, people are going to figure out, well, what's the cheapest, quickest, and most effective way to find these resources? And they quickly figured it out. Placer mining soon gave way to more efficient methods that required more money and equipment. One method was to dam and divert rivers to expose their beds. Another method, or hydraulic mining, employed jets of water to erode gravel hills into long lines of sluices to catch the gold. Hydraulic mining damaged the environment by leveling hills and clogging rivers with sediment. Those with the most money turned to hard rock mining, searching in the mountains for veins of quartz that contained gold. Miners extracted gold by digging deep tunnels and shafts braced with posts and beams and drained by pumps. One California newspaper complained that the new type of large-scale mining operation degrades the sturdy miner into a drudge, while mine owners reap the great profit of his endeavor. The democratic age of placer mining was over. With few exceptions, wealthy investors, rather than common miners, owned the mines and enjoyed the profits. So the technology comes out that speeds up gold mining and makes it a lot more effective, a lot more productive, and is churning out a lot more gold. However, in order to do this type of mining, you have to have money to begin with to buy the equipment and everything that you need to dig the mines and to use these to access this hard rock mining, to get into these veins of quartz and gold. You know, your common everyday guy, he's not going to be able to set up one of these, you know. Sure, anybody could get a pan, pick, or shovel and be able to sift through the sediment in the riverbanks trying to find these flecks of gold. But that was not going to turn out a lot of profit. This hydraulic mining and setting up these efficient gold mines with all this technology, yeah, you're going to get a lot of gold, but you have to have a lot of money to even start off. Indians and Mexicans face discrimination. Newcomers from the eastern United States quickly asserted their dominance over California. To discourage the Chinese, they levied a heavy tax on foreign miners. White miners also terrorized and killed American Indians by the thousands. Losing their land, many surviving American Indians became workers on farms and ranches. Mob violence drove most Mexican Americans away from the gold fields. Those who stayed had to pay the foreign miners' tax, even though the Mexicans had been in California long before the new American majority. Californios, or Mexican Californians, also lost most of their land. Contrary to the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, the courts ignored land titles created under Mexican law. So greed is driving all of these people, all of these newcomers into California to essentially drive out all of the previous inhabitants so that they can take over and try to strike it rich in these gold mines. The debate over California statehood. The new Californians wanted quickly to organize a state and enter the Union. In October 1849, their leaders held a convention and drew up a state constitution. The new constitution excluded African Americans, both slave and free. Most of the new Californians were Northerners who did not want to compete with the Southern slaveholders who could use slave labor to seek gold. Nor did the miners want any free blacks to live in California. California's application for statehood stirred discord between North and South. At the time, the Union was comprised of 15 free states and 15 slave states. Admission of a new free state would thus tip the delicate regional balance in the Senate. Over the next decade, debate over the spread of slavery into the lands won from Mexico would grow increasingly bitter. Thus, westward expansion became a major source of the division that ultimately led to the tragic Civil War. Okay guys, that's going to be it for this video. As always, if you have any questions about anything that I went over in this video, you can send me an email, you can leave a comment, or just ask me the next time that you see me. Okay guys, I hope everybody has a great day, and I will be seeing you again real soon.